Right. G'day, Doggies fans, all things Bulldogs. Welcome to everyone who's joined so far. Sorry about that. I don't know what was going on there. I was having to listen to some King Carraz. Pour me some Shiraz. We've got the draw in for 2025, so it's going to be good, this one. I'm going to go through it as best I can. So I've had a quick look at it today. There's definitely, it's a lot fairer as far as, sharing the amount of games where we don't have a smaller turnaround than our opposition. I think we're still slightly in the negative, but we have a lot more games where it's the same turnaround, and we have a lot more games where we get a longer turnaround into a game, which can make all the difference. Recovery time and all that sort of stuff. We do play 3 or 4 teams after they have a bye, and I think there's only a couple of sides playing us after our bye, which is interesting. That are at a disadvantage, sort of thing. So we'll have a look at that. We'll go through, I've got that going across the screen. I will also look at our top 30. We've got 29 spots filled. A couple of players vying for spots. We'll look at zero tackle to confirm that, because it'll just show a lot better on the screen, hopefully. But I hope everyone's been doing well. Looks like we missed out on Pappenhausen. We missed out on Terrell May. And it's no surprise when Phil Gould says that they're keeping the powder dry towards the end of last season, and they're more focused on retention. So they're about to announce Bronson Cherry's 2-year extension, or they have. Not sure if it's official yet, so it might be in that 10-day cooling off period. They've said it through the news and that sort of stuff, so that's a good thing for him. And then we'll also look at, Ben Hunt. Apparently, Gould had a chat with him now. I received a little bit of word from a couple of sources that I don't know if it's true or not, but we'll see, that we only offered about $500,000 a year. So there you go. And I think that's all. Look, if you'd carry a player like Ben Hunt for $500,000 a season, but if it's going to be more than that, I'm not too sure. G'day, Timmy. Welcome, mate. Good to see you. Glad you've come along and said hello. And come say hi if you're sitting there watching now. Pete's given me the top 30 in the messenger list there, and he's also got who we've got in our development list at the moment and who's penciled in for next year. So we'll have a look at that when we get through to it. But thanks for that, Pete. So what are we doing? I just got a big knock at the door. So I'll just press pause. Trust that to happen, but this is what happens in live streaming, so I won't be a second. Someone's banging at the front door. Yeah. I've got a bar collar, I've got everything. What was that, mate? Yeah, I'm basically the bowl of water and then I'm pumping it back from home. It's a bit of a nightmare. You hear me yelling at that dog, trying to get it inside. Get the dog! There he's going, guys. Just got a neighbour coming, starting on me, so about our dog. Well, I'm a dog lover, as you can see. So he might want to fucking shut his mouth. Fucking Kiwis. G'day to all the Kiwis out there. Fucking whinge about everything. There's about 6 dogs barking across this whole neighbourhood. They just don't stop. It's so annoying. And our little dog, she's only a little baby. And he comes on as carry on at us. Anyway, sorry about that. It's a bit fucking... It's what happens in a live stream. Sometimes life comes first, and that's what happened just then. But let's have a look at it, hey? Let's have a look at this. So the draw. The draw. We're going to look at that right now, the draw. So I'll bring it up on the big screen. I've got it rolling down the bottom there. But the reason I want to look at it. So we played the Dragons at Cogra to start the season, which was a bit stupid. So we played them at Cogra. Last time we played the Dragons, it was at Cogra. I know it didn't seem to matter, but it is a home ground advantage. 4:30 should be at a big stadium. Don't know why they couldn't have done it then, but anyway. 4:30 p.m. game, so it'll be pretty hot, I would suggest. So fitness is going to play a big part in it. They've already got us at massive favourites, as we can see. But no excuses for either team, really. We then play the Titans at Belmore in round 2. So an 8-day turnaround into the Titans. Titans get the bye round 1, so they already get the advantage over us as far as rest. But that means they could be rusty, and we should be hopefully hitting our straps, which is what you would want in front of the big Belmore Sports Ground. So look, we're going to ask for teams to play early in the season, these would be these ones. We then go to Combank Stadium the following Sunday to play the Eels. And that's a 3:05 p.m. game. So that'll be on Channel 9 live. So we get our first Channel 9 game in round 3, which is not too bad. We then follow up against the Sharks the following Saturday at Shark Park. So that small little crappy crowd there. Followed by the Knights at Accor. So our first game at Accor is in round 5. And the Knights team will travel to that, so it should get a pretty good crowd. Sunday, April 6th. So some good turnarounds into those games before our first bye of the season, round 6. Now, we have our 3 byes. We have round 6, round 13, and round 16. So it'll be a long run to hopefully the finals after our last bye. We then play, after our bye, we go into the Good Friday game against the Rabbitohs, which will be good. We follow that up with a Thursday night match at Suncorp against the Broncos. And I think they come off a 5-day turnaround, the Bronx, into that match. So that could be good for us. It'll be a night game, Thursday night, prime time, very, very good. Not a good record at Brisbane most of the time, and at night especially we struggle, but we will see. Obviously, we'll be 8 rounds in. We'll know where we're at that point. We'll come and see if anyone's got any stuff with it. Timmy said, all good, brother. Life is complicated. You have Queensland times. Probably. Oh, shit, it's 8:53 here in Queensland. I forgot about that. I'm running on bloody daylight saving. Sorry about that, guys. I thought it was bloody... I forgot about that. So I'm in Queensland. It's only 7:55. It's nearly 9 p.m. there, so I'll need to look at that when doing these. Timmy says he's getting to the Knights game. It's day after his birthday. We won in round 5 this year on my birthday. And Pete says, Addo Carter miss our first matchup, which isn't a bad thing, I guess. Not a bad thing at all. So good point, Pete. So we'll get back and look at this draw. So after round 8 on a Thursday night, now, look, Canterbury weren't staying. They were flying up the day before and then flying straight back for all their away games. We don't have to go to New Zealand this year. There's one Townsville trip. There's no Bundaberg trip. And we basically we do our Broncos game at Suncorp and then follow the following week for once we get a nice long turnaround on a Magic Round game. We play the Titans on the Sunday at 1:50. So the first game on Magic Round Sunday at Suncorp. Now, I just wonder if they're going to spend a couple of weeks in Brisbane. They probably won't, but I think they owe the fans. Look, the fans, if you had to prioritise, what would the fans want last year? Making the finals would, it goes way beyond and above, fan sentiment and seeing the fans and give them back. And they did a lot of that with their community, with the local community. But Queensland members deserve, I think, to be able to have a members' day or something in Queensland, or a couple of where they spend a good hour or two just doing a training session and signing autographs or something like that, getting amongst the Queensland fans. And I hope they do that, and I'll be making that request if it's not already on the agenda, because they were supposed to do them last year and they cancelled them both, from what I could see. So there you go. Obviously did a lot in Bundaberg, as did the Dolphins, because it's Dolphins territory, but we're not in Bundaberg this year, so that's one trip we don't have to do, but expect a road trip to New Zealand next year. So, yeah, that'll be good. So I'll get to go to 2 games in 2 weeks, which will be phenomenal. I might do one of those, vlogs at the game, but I don't know. Probably wouldn't be much good viewing. After we travel from Magic Round into a Saturday game at GIO Stadium, Saturday the 10th of May. Not too cold in Canberra at that point. Starting to cool down, 3 p.m. in the afternoon. Should be good conditions for the Bulldogs and the Raiders in Canberra. We then travel back home for the Friday night match against the Roosters at Accor Stadium, which will be a blockbuster, 8 p.m. So getting a few more primetime games, which is good to see. They generally like to put us in some of those lower rating slots because we prop them up all the time. And Warriors never get the rub of the green, but at the same time, they're more worried about the New Zealand audience over there. So they don't really care about the New Zealanders here. Round 12, Thursday night footy at Accor Stadium. So we're getting plenty of Channel 3 to air versus the Dolphins, 7:50, followed by the bye. Before the King's birthday weekend game, round 14, 4 p.m, Monday night football on Foxtel, or Monday afternoon at Accor Stadium again. And hopefully going to get another massive crowd there again for the King's birthday. Round 15, back to Accor Stadium, this time as the away side on the Sunday versus the Rabbits for prime time, Channel 9 timing. and then we've got the bye again in round 16. So I don't know if these are the right times, but it all should be the same anyway by then, so it shouldn't matter. But round 17, Thursday night football again against the Panthers at Combank Stadium. Followed up by the Broncos at Accor. Then we travel to Townsville for a Saturday night match against the Cowboys. Then we go back to Accor to play the Dragons, which should be a massive crowd. Followed by a Sunday match against the Seagulls, a Sunday match against the Tigers at Combank. So we play quite a few games at Combank, which I really like because it's we should be able to get a lot of fans to those games and really make it a really good there'll be some 30,000 crowds there for sure. Then we play the following Saturday against the Warriors at Accor. I think they get a nice big long turnaround into that, the Warriors, if they get a bye into that game. Then we've got the Roosters, Storm and Panthers in consecutive weeks, starting at Allianz Stadium on a Friday night prime time, followed by Friday night prime time against the Storm, and then Thursday night prime time against Penrith at Accor. Both sides with a 6-day turnaround into that, followed by round 27 against the Sharks at home. So look, we've got the Panthers twice, we've got the Roosters twice, the Dragons twice, the Broncos twice, the Rabbitohs twice, the Eels twice, the Titans twice, and the Sharks twice. So we'll have to see what you think about that. We travel less than any other team in the comp, is what we're getting out of that. So 14 free-to-air games, which is a massive improvement for Bulldogs fans. Really good for people who don't have the streaming services of Foxtel, but I would suggest that 90% of Bulldogs fans have a streaming service or Foxtel. I could be wrong. I'm just pulling that figure out of my ass. So let's look at my big head. I think, Timmy, they'll play that at Belmore, but there might be something where they change it to Accor or another stadium for a bigger crowd or something. I'm not sure. But I thought we'd play 2 games at Belmore Stadium every year. So that's interesting. Very, very interesting. Only the opening 4 rounds you showed us is in the draw and daylight savings time for Queensland. All right, thanks for that, Timmy. The game against Manly, the club is celebrating 30 years since the 95 premiership win against Manly. Wow. Do you think they'll have a special jersey for that, Tim? That'll be interesting. All right, let's have a look at this. Timmy sent us, Pete sent us so for 2025 distance travelled, the Bulldogs will travel less than any other team in the comp. So it's about time we got the rub of the green in that. Warriors are always going to travel a long way. The Raiders, you would expect, would travel less than the that means the Raiders have a pretty tough draw. Dragons pretty good draw. Roosters pretty good draw. Sydney teams have done well. You always expect the teams that are outside of Sydney to travel more as far as distance, but it's about how long they're on the road, which counts. But yeah, we had by far on, looking at all things equal, we had the hardest draw last year and did so well. This year, it's definitely a lot better for us. We play a lot more teams with, we have no 5-day turnarounds, which is good. but still, we're playing how many top 8 teams twice? 1, 2, 1, 2, 3. Yeah, maybe is it only 3 top 8 teams twice? But in saying that, Parramatta, Souths, St George, all expected to do pretty well. So yeah, there you go. Oh, here's the actual rundown where somebody's actually broke it down already, and well done to them for doing that. Bulldogs only faced top 8 team 3 times in the opening 16 rounds, which includes 3 byes and just 2 trips out of New South Wales. 6-week stretch where they play 4 games at home, bush to go with the 2 byes. They also have an equal league high 14 games on free-to-air television. They also don't have a single 5-day turnaround. So there you go. Somebody already did the stuff that I was just going through. So thanks for that, Pete. You probably can't read it on the screen, but go back to Allianz to play Manly like the 1995 grand final. That was played at the SFS, but I agree it should be at Belmore. Timmy says the last 5 games will be crucial if we can nail the first half of the year and have ourselves in a good position come the midway point of the season. You know, we could sit there and go through every game what we should win, but it doesn't work out like that. Look, I'm expecting us to win our first 2 matches, and by round 3, we should be humming. And I don't mind playing the Eels and the Sharks after we've got going, you know. But you start slow, you've got a lot of pressure over the next 3 matches. But really, moving into round 6, the Dogs could be looking like a top 4 side and right at competing close to the top of the ladder, you know. But you go through these top 30s and I see a lot of strikes. So it's going to depend. Like Josh Addo-Carr won't be there. Will Mitchell Moses be right? He should be. Dylan Brown should be right. They don't have Reg anymore, who I felt was their best front rower by far. The Sharks, we've had Fanor Blake added to that squad, are going to be tough. And the Knights, well, it's make or break for them sort of thing. You never know what they're going to throw out. But then you go with Rabbits, Broncos, Titans away into the Raiders and then Roosters at home. Look, you can't deny this is a good draw for the Bulldogs this year. This is a much better draw than we've had in a very, very long time. So, but Dave, very good point. First games are generally won on defence, so hopefully we get a good start. Yeah, well, look, we conceded, 80 points or something in the last 3 matches we played. I'll be interested to see what the trials throw up, but I think there's going to be a huge bottleneck of stars there waiting to do their thing. So I reckon it's time. We've looked at the draw. I think it's a good draw. We've had a lot of shit ones. So I think it's time we look at our top 30 squad and talk about the potential 30th player coming to that side. I don't expect that they'll either get Ben Hunt in and upgrade another player or something else. Pete says, a good 6-game stretch in the middle where we have 4 games at a core and 2 byes. Yeah, well, I was just reading that out, buddy. That, what's his name? Matt Encarnacion. It's given the Bulldogs an A+ draw. I still look at the sides like Eels, Rabbitohs, Broncos as top 8 squads. Like their squads have got too much strike in them. But hopefully they just continue their downfall, the Eels, the Rabbitohs. Titans, you know, Farmer coming back. Now they've got Reg up there as well. Like they're going to be a tough team to beat in the forwards. We've got to match them because they got speed to burn out. Why? They're not going to be easy beats. I think playing them at Belmore though is a good place to play them in round 2. I expect them to improve. I expect the Tigers to improve, as does everyone, I guess. The Dragons should improve. But we'll see how good they go without a Ben Hunt. But we're relying on more of their players and sharing. And no Zach Lomax either. So that's going to be hard for them to overcome. Really, there's no excuses with the draw. So we have a chance to really do something next year and consolidate. But as I've said many, many times, I just want to see tough effort, a team that's hard to beat every week. If you tick those boxes, hopefully you win more games than you lose. And if you get a bit of luck, hopefully you win a lot more games than you lose. So that's what we're hoping for. So there you go. I don't know how loud I'm coming through, but I haven't had my microphone in front of me. Does that sound better? Oh, sorry. I sort of got a bit rattled because some little fuckwit come to my front door banging on it. And, yeah, I don't like people knocking on the door at night time. But anyway, unless they're a mate. So, let's look at the top 30. It's going to scroll down the bottom. We'll bring up a picture as well. So can we see that any good? It's a little bit hard to see. It's a little bit hard to see. What am I doing? Anyway. Sorry about that, guys. Just having some issues. Oh, that's loud now, is it? Let me have a look. Hello, hello. Oh, there we go. I'll turn that. Is that better? Hopefully that's a bit better now. Sorry about that, fellas. People, champions. I hope everyone's well. It's got Timmy, Dave, and Pete on tonight, which is good. Let's look at it. Let's see if that's a better view. See if this is a better view. Yeah, I think that's a bit better, easier to see, but thank you very much, Pete. So if we go through it, we've got Tom and Monet to 2026, Matty Burton and Crichton through to 2027, Josh Curran through to extended through to 26. We don't know what's happening with Harry Hayes. We've got Bailey Haywood for next year. Lipboy Hotboy potentially into the top 30 in 2026. Samuel Hughes till 2026. Drew Hutchison till 2025. Gideon Katonga to 25. Kikau through to 2026. Max King and Jacob Crows through to 27. Then Reed Marnie till 26. Kurt Mann till next year. Montoya to 26. Moran to next year. Olawapu to 2026. Preston to 2027. Then we've got Salmon, Sexton, Saluka Fafita, Sutton, and Taff, all for next year and off contract. Connor Tracy through to 2026. Just signed Anari Tawala to 2026. Satili Tupanua through to 2028. Jake Turpin, Blake Wilson for next year. And Mitchell Woods through to 2027. And Bronson Cherry expected to extend till 2027 and be part of that core group going forward. So there you go. The development squad We have Lipoi Hopoi for this year, apparently. Logan Spinks through to 2026. And Jack Underhill in 2027 joins the development squad. So for the next 2 years, he'll be on a train and trial. But there's always the chance, just like Curtis Moran, that he could be upgraded at any point. And obviously, they've got to add some players to that. So I think there'll be players such as Jack Todd. Maybe Harry Hayes goes through to the development squad and gets a development contract, meaning he'll be eligible from round 1. And I'd expect that potentially Lipoi Hopoi is already there. And there you go. We've got Jason Taylor as an assistant for next year, and we're not sure what else is happening in that regard with the coaches. Injuries and suspensions. Carla Luapu is indefinite still, but Ryan Sutton expected to be right, and Kurt Mann expected to be right for round 1. So the gains for this year were Tom Amone, Marcello Montoya, Anari Tuala, Satili Tupanua. We've lost Josh Adokar, Harrison Edwards, Pawasa Farmasili retired, Joash Papali to the Eels, Chris Patolo to the Seagulls, train and trial, Hayes Perham to the Broncos, Jordan Samrani to the Eels, Gerald Skelton to the Tigers, and Zane Tedavano retired. We've re-signed Hughes, Max King, and we'll add Bronson Cherry to that list. And a whole bunch of them are off contract in Bailey Haywood, Drew Hutchison, Gideon Katonga, Kurt Mann, Curtis Moran, Jamin Salmon, Toby Sexton, Daniel Saluka Fafita, Ryan Sutton, Blake Taft, Jake Turpin, Blake Wilson, and I'm not going to say Bronson Cherry again because he has re-signed, I'm pretty sure. So there you go. Sounds great. FNAFO is developing 2025. Hi, Sam. YouTube decided that you should see this content. Good luck to you, my friend. And thanks for coming and saying hello. You're welcome anytime, Sam. You go for the Bulldogs? Let us know if you go for the Bulldogs. But if you don't, that's all right. So for people who've just jumped on, we have had quite a lot of stuff going on in regards to who we're going to sign. So I want to talk a little bit about that. I really want to talk about that. As I said at the start, Phil Gould mentioned that he was going to keep the powder dry and that they're probably just going to focus on retention of the current squad. And he always talks about he's always looking ahead. So what the club looks like in 2026, 27. And then when he gets to the next year, he's looking to 2028. So he's looking very far ahead. Welcome, Steve. How you going, mate? Doggies. So with that being the case, it's probably no surprise that we didn't make an offer for Terrell May. It's probably no surprise that we didn't end up making an offer for Pappenhausen before he said he was going to extend for 1 season with the Storm. That all makes sense. Look, Pappenhausen, do we want to pay him over $1 million? I think he makes your team better if he can play games, and that's the whole thing. I think if he gets through a season with the Storm this year, they might just decide to keep him. But they've got to weigh up, and that's the thing they've got to do is weigh up that other young fella they've got for Longo. G'day, Lucas. Welcome to the podcast, mate. Been talking about, we just went through the draw, so if you want to watch that, or if you've only just started watching from the start, I don't know if you can do that. You can go back. But look, there's lots of good stuff happening for next year, guys. there was rumours that we're looking at this young fella from the Gold Coast. So I need to have a look at that. I think his name's Porga or something. Josiah Pahulu, I think is his name. Let me know if I've got that right. Josiah Pahulu. So they've signed Regan Campbell-Gillard and another fella. They've let go of quite a few good players. And there's quite a few players off contract for the Titans next year as well. And Josiah Pahulu is one of them. And I would expect they're going to struggle to keep him. I really do. Now, he's one of these players, obviously, that he's 104 kilos and 6 foot. So he's not huge. He's only 20 years old. He's played about 19 games. So Gus flew to Melbourne apparently to try for Paps. I'm correct 100%. All right. Yeah, so look, I have no doubt that Gus had a chat with Ryan Pappenhausen, and that's the thing. But it's so easy for the media to say, "Oh yeah, we're going to offer him over $1 million." Like our highest paid player is Stephen Crichton on 850. So for any player to get more than that, they have to be rated as better or more valuable to our club than Stephen Crichton. This is happening a lot in the big clubs where they just have, and I've said this a few times, they're not going to pay more for a player to get a player if that player, so for us, if we went and all I'm saying is if we went and offered Ryan Pappenhausen 1.1 million, I'd expect that they'd upgrade Stephen Crichton to the same amount of money. That's all. It definitely, there's this unwritten law that they have where they pay the most money for their best player and captain. So, but another prop, only 104 kilos, 6 foot. To me, that's a player that isn't overly huge, but obviously can probably motor a little bit. You see, from what I gathered, they've been very targeted in who they've approached to join the Bulldogs. Workhorses, as we've seen, that no one else is interested in. And players that we haven't really heard much about or no one talked about, we've just went and got them for not too much money. Saluka Fafita, probably the biggest profile prop. Satili Tupanua, obviously he's the number one profile signing we've got over the last 12 months. Now, I think 650 is a bit much for him, but hopefully I'm wrong. Hopefully he proves to be worth every cent of that. And having a long-term deal, he gets to put his best foot forward, and he's definitely a trier and a goer, but as I've said a few times, he can make a few mistakes. But this young fellow from the Gold Coast, he just fits the profile of one of these players that no one's talking about. Everyone's talking about Terrell May and Leo Thompson and Ryan Pappenhausen and Ben Hunt. And meanwhile, we're investigating this 19-game player who's 104 kilos and 6 foot, hits pretty hard and runs even harder. And apparently going to have a bit of a, work ethic about him. Is he another Jacob Preston that they bring to the club? Put him straight in the top 30. He's on a little bit more than what he could get at the Titans, maybe the same, and just outworks the Dogs that are there. You know what I mean? And that's how they've sort of done it. They've got a lot of these players have just earned their spot. and it's really good to see. And I want to keep seeing more of that. And I think that's something we can sort of grab hold of. It's like, we bought a lot of players, but we didn't go buy superstars. As I said 100 times, Kickow, Crichton, Reed Marnie, Satili Tupanua, Bronson Cherry. I'll leave Bronson out of it because he had that 4 years off and no one was really talking about him. But all these players are high-profile players, right? And they weren't linked to any other club in the competition but Canterbury. There was no talk about these players might go here and there. There's people saying, oh, these clubs could do with these players, but there was no actual word from, media reports that the Titans are interested or the Dragons are interested. If you did, you probably got one faint little report, but I couldn't remember any. And if you go look at our last 15 signings, they've all just been Canterbury. Going back to Nick Kotrick, there's only been the club interested is the Canterbury. Now, Josh Addo-Carr, I know that he spoke to the Tigers and he spoke to the Rabbits, and I think he wanted to go to the Rabbits. And they just couldn't get the deal done, and the Bulldogs just made him an offer more than everybody else. And also said, we're going to do this and that for you off the field. He made a really good career and a life for himself. And if that incident doesn't happen, well, I suppose, he's probably going through some stuff, obviously, was embarrassed. But anyway, he's gone. But the point I'm trying to make is that we're recruiting players that aren't in demand from other clubs. And it seems we're going after the players that we want. And then our youngsters, like, no one's really interested in them. And the clubs that are interested in them, if those players suggest at any point that, hey, if their managers go to our club and say, look, I can get an offer like this, from what you're seeing, Phil Gould's sitting there and saying, we'll see ya. Because I'll look at Skelton, I'll look at Avarillo, I'll look at Alamotti. Alamotti tried it on with, I'm not saying he did personally, but his manager was talking $650,000 a year being offered from the Cowboys. The Dogs go from, going to extend him for a year or two to not signing him. Then he goes to Penrith, wins a premiership ring. Well done to him. Plays well for Tonga. They make the Pacific Championship final, but it's worked out good for him. But it just seems that anyone that's left our club, their managers have played a bit of to and fro. Whereas you look at the Burtons and you look at these players we've extended, there's been no discussion of other clubs. It's all just been about Canterbury and what Canterbury can do for them. And hopefully that pays huge returns for us. I really do. G'day, Adam. Thanks for your kind words too, brother. Much love and respect to you, mate, and welcome to the show. I sent you the messages to get you on here. I'm glad you come. The game has got so fast. A young mobile prop has a yes. That's it, Pete. I think if they find someone who's got a motor, I just look at it and I'm like, look at these guys that have come in and just work. They just go to work. Preston, Carraz, they do the hit-ups. They do the tackles. They try and make things happen in matches. They take it under their own wing. Bailey Hayward, there were signs that like he put his head where he's supposed to every fucking tackle. And then there was games where he put the chip through. He was the man. He was there, the one to win the game. Won us the game against the Cowboys, and they cruelly took it off us. That puts us in the top 4. You know what I mean? We're fighting for top 4 in those last couple of weeks, which is it's a little bit different to just scraping into 6th place or 7th place. So, yeah, Harry Hayes and Josh Curran, like these players, they brought to the club, not huge, but big motors, and just go to work. And the fans have loved it, and I've loved it. We've all loved it, and we love talking about it. We can't wait for it to come back. Christmas for me is starting NRL. now. I don't want a break. Adam says, I don't like the players use our club as a way of getting more cash. Yeah, Adam, well, that's one view. Look, I think what the club does, in the past, we've had to do that. And Phil Gould talked about it. He said, if you put our top 30 and sold it, they're all worth 10 million, but if you sold our top 30 to other clubs, we'd only get 5.5 million back for it. But if we went and bought, the Panthers or the Storm or the Roosters top 30, it'd cost us 15 million to get them to come from player 1 to player 30. But what we've done, what Gus does is he says, all right, well, this is our cap and we need this many players in these positions. And who can cover what? Are they all good people? Are they going to put club first, team second, individual third? Well, that's the idea when they get here. And this player is our best player. He's on this much. This player is our least valuable. He's on this much. And our wingers are worth this. We only pay this amount for our wingers, this amount for our centers, this amount for our fullback, this amount for our hookers, this amount for our halves. And if they're paying too much, so if they're paying for 2 wingers in Carraz and Josh Adokar, but they know Carraz can play centre and play fullback, well, they can stretch his salary over all the positions, and that's how what I heard how it works. And now we've Scott Woodward, the analyst, what he does as far as targeting players is he's just looking at their stats, like how quick do they get back, how many tackles can they make and then get back into the line, and how many tackles they make per set, what's their speed, how many support runs will they make in 10 minutes. All these stats that we don't see, that's what they're looking at. They're looking at their aerobic capabilities, all those, and all clubs are doing all this. Like, it's not just the Bulldogs, but as far as players they're targeting, they're not targeting reputations. They're targeting specific prototypes of footballers to join the club. And if they're a good person, well, that's going to help. And then as far as the player, and that's from the young brigade, as far as the players that they've put into the top 30 around some good signings, which were basically just fell in our lap, as I was saying, these players, you look at your Max Kings, riddled with injuries. Saluka Fafita injured before we've even got him. A lot of players with a lot of injury troubles have come to the Bulldogs, and not on huge money. So we've been able to get them at a good price, and then they've been able to prove themselves as footballers and get extensions. Max King, Jacob Carraz, perfect examples of that. It doesn't work out with every signing. No one was talking to Ryan Sutton. We said, to us, you're worth $500,000 for 3 years. Come here, teach our young fellas how to go forward, how to tackle one-on-one, how to be a man. Unfortunately, he busted himself early and he hasn't been able to recover. But that's not his fault. Doesn't mean he's a dog. It doesn't mean he's a bad human or a bad footballer. It just means that it hasn't worked out. Chris Patolo, all the potential in the world, comes back, 2 really good runs, 2 big tackles. Then the next time he gets tackled, he slips and does the splits, and he's stuffed again. Now for another 5 weeks. Then he comes back and gets concussed. Like, the guy just kept hitting brick walls. But we know if he gets his body right and gets some games together, he's going to be an asset to whoever he goes to. But will it happen? We don't know. Perhaps use us to get more cash. Yeah, maybe, Adam. Look, he said it's not about the cash. And the Storm were offered a pretty low amount for a player of that caliber, $750, but he should be taking that from them based on the amount of games he's missed. I think he's extended for 1 year for a little bit, maybe a tiny bit more. But a lot of times Canterbury will have players that are potentially going to other clubs. You look at Terrell May, you look at all these players where there's all these clubs linked to them. Canterbury doesn't rule ourselves out of the running. We say nothing to the reports. And all of a sudden, they sign elsewhere, and Canterbury says, "Oh, we're not making an offer." But the place that they've signed at has had to pay way more for them, and that's good for us because if the West Tigers have paid a lot for Terrell May, there might be some young fella at West that's going to be squeezed out of there that they can't afford to keep. We could have. Everyone was saying we should go and sign Regan Campbell-Gillard, right? But Regan Campbell-Gillard, he's gone to the Titans. Desi does what Desi does, trying to win a premiership, obviously. But this other fella, Josiah Pahulu, they might not have enough money to keep this young fella, and he might be a real talent. They've got to keep Keanu Kinney. They're paying a lot for Brimson. They're paying a lot for bloody Jaden Campbell. The Foreign's getting, what, 300 or 400 grand. They've got these players, Fa'amasili, David Fafita, Mo Wharawaka. They've got all these players. I don't know, is Mo still there? Or is he leaving? Can't remember. They had to let go of Keenan Palacia. He's a good player. But what I'm saying is, when Reg in a couple of years is going to be on the downward spiral, and this young Pahulu potentially is, going to be a world beater by then. He's not as big as Reg, but he might just be what we need, and at a really good price. And that's how it's happening. That's how the wars happen. So we're linked to Regan Campbell-Gillard. Titans pay an extra 50, 100 grand for him. Then they can't keep their young fella. That if we weren't linked to that player, maybe they could have afforded to keep both. That's how it works. Whereas with the Bulldogs, you can see a lot of discipline where they just say, "Look, to us you're worth 600, but we know you can get 900 elsewhere. So we're probably not going to make you an offer because that's all you're worth to us. You might make us, whatever the word is." Oh, g'day, Ross. Welcome back. Gus wants people who want to be a Bulldog. You couldn't have said it more succinctly than that, Ross. You either want to be a Bulldog or you don't. And if your manager's going up to Gus, see, if Gus is going to you, it's different. But if your manager's going up to Gus and saying, we're getting offers, as good as that player is or as valuable as that kid is, if Gus hasn't tapped him on the shoulder, I'm pretty sure the response is, well, let us know how you go and we'll give you a good fucking referral, pretty much. Or, get to work and we'll come knock on, we'll let you know what we think in a couple of weeks. It's a big game of chess and it does not end. This game does not stop. It goes, they don't have a break from it. It just keeps going. And that's why we're constantly talking about it. I got your back too, my brother. G'day, Aussie. I find Volandis, Abdo and Co quite sus after making the Storm versus Bulldogs only one encounter in 2025. Storm getting 2 home ground matches in a row against us with this year in the 2024 and next year in 2025. Well, Aussie, you'll find that we've played the Storm in Melbourne most years for the last 5 years. I don't think that's got anything to do with fucking Volandis. As some smart people have said, the draw is very fucking complex. Last year was pathetically out of kilter in regards to us. Like previously, it wouldn't matter who we were playing because we just weren't good enough. But last year, the turnarounds were bad. This year, we've got the best draw in the comp. We travel less than any other team. We have big, long stretches. We have a lot of buys early. And we're not going to New Zealand. We're not going to Bundaberg. We only got to go to Townsville. We go to Brisbane twice. That's it. Everywhere else is in Sydney. We've got no 5-day turnarounds, and we've got 14 free-to-air matches. The Bulldogs last year, with what they went through, with the shitty draw, with the injuries, and the hype and momentum and the revenue that team, the way they went about things, brought to the NRL and brought to the Bulldogs club. Because if it's good for Canterbury, it's good for the NRL. And then people have got to understand that. They've been rewarded with 14 free-to-air matches. And now it's up to those players on the big stage, week in, week out, to fucking deliver. And they don't. And for me, by delivering means is that you don't always win every game, but you're very hard to beat. And you fight for 80 minutes. And if we see that in 99.9% of matches, I reckon we're having 2 blowouts at the end of the season when it was clearly obvious that they're working for that semi-final. But, you know, if they're going to sit there and play to the 80th minute, go into fucking golden point 2 or 3 times and win by a point and put it on the line, have young kids come through that just come in and do their work, do their job. Like I know we make the comparisons with Penrith, but that's Penrith. They bring these kids in that no one's really heard about. Everyone around Penrith knows who they are. And the coaches of the Bulldogs know what they've got. But when these kids come in and do their job, regardless of what the experts say and what the fans say, these kids come in, do their job. The Dogs get a couple of W's. That's what Penrith have lost so many players, as we've seen, and these kids just keep turning up, and you're sort of thinking, what are they going to do? Melbourne, the same thing. Who's this kid? And you see, you know, you watch players like Liero and Trent Liero and fucking, you know, Tyron Wishart and that, and you're watching them a couple of years ago, and you're like, oh, they're pretty fucking average. Josh King, oh, he's average. Let him play for 2 years, though. He's fucking far from average, and then all of a sudden he's they're one of their best players. It's if I know anything, our Bulldogs have been learning from what's been winning, and now they've got to back it up. We went 3 wins, 3 wins, 7 wins, 7 wins, 13 wins. Should have been more, right? We need another 13 wins, hopefully. But that's an outcome. For me, it's about the process and getting to the outcome. We have less wins, but look, we've got the draw to have more wins, though. So we can't really have too many excuses at this stage. But let's see how they go at it. Let's see how it goes. Steve's hanging for the season to start. I've been supporting the Dogs since I was a grasshopper. Me too, my friend. Anyone know if Ryan's starting to be ready for round 1 spoon? We haven't seen him. Yeah, well, it's just lightning striking twice. Definitely is. I'll tell you what, Ryan Sutton, he can fucking tackle, man. He hits with the shoulder and can chop players down one-on-one. Not enough said about that sort of stuff, you know. Like, you go and watch the player and just watch him work and go, fuck, this guy's working his ass off. Another one, Max King. Love his tackling technique. Doesn't get talked about. So I'm talking about it. So, g'day, Status. Welcome, mate. Status Tomb. He says Moran would be a good dummy half. Well, he's got the build for it, and he's pretty skillful, Moran. Like, I saw him wrapping around and passing at the line and stuff like that. I think Serrato said to him last year, get out there and run hard and set up the next play. But he's quite skillful. He could do quite a lot. Yeah, we got a lot of cash to spend on who the club thinks we need. Let's go 2025. The season went by so fast. Next year I want to go to a home game. Well, I hope you do, matey. I'll be going to And that's another good thing when we're playing Magic Round. It's an away game for once. It's against the Titans, and it's not on a Friday night. First game on a Friday night, which is always the worst time. So I'll be able to get there at Sunday at 1:50 with my family and get out there and support the Bulldogs. Welcome, Gratitude. Good evening. Adam says, hopefully next year Ryan Sutton can have a blinder, God willing. That's it, mate. What's the latest news on Ben Hunt? Well, glad you asked. Apparently, we made a... Look, I heard some news come on SEN today that apparently his manager reached out to a third party or something, or Ben Hunt had a third party deal. A third party reached out to the Bulldogs on behalf of Ben Hunt, to someone who could pay third party deals. So to me, that would suggest the Dogs haven't offered much. And from what I heard, it's $500,000 over 2 years. Now, Ben Hunt on a lower wage sort of changes things for me regarding Toby Sexton. So Ben Hunt coming to the club, I'm almost ready to say Toby's looking to leave, and the Dogs are sort of happy for him to go. We don't know what Toby's asking for. We don't know any of that. He says he wants to be a Bulldog, so we just don't know. If you sign a Ben Hunt on $800,000, well, you don't have room in your cap for Toby. But if you've got $500,000 on Ben, you can pay Toby on the similar money, and you've got quite a lot of depth there in your halves. And knowing that Hutchison can play centre, play halfback, play 5'8", play lock, in reserve grade and stuff. And if we have some injuries, he can come in and do a job. Haven't heard much about Joey O'Neill. That's one that I'm worried about too. Adam says, yeah, that's what I heard too. The third party reached out to the Dogs. So, yeah, I think the Dogs haven't offered much, and the third party's they want to organise a deal where they can do something for Ben to keep him, so he's getting some good extra income that the Dogs actually don't have to pay. But we did still wear it on the cap. Like, we still wear it on the cap. There you go. I don't know what's going on, but I've been going for over an hour. We need to invest in Toby Sexton. Well, that's the whole thing there, Adam. We've got Toby. We've got Cassius Tia. We've got Mitchell Woods is already in the top 30. We've got Bailey Hayward. We've got Carlo Awapu. We've got, I always fucking forget his name, Alex Conti, and a whole bunch of others. So, with that being the case, there's a bit of a logjam of players there. That are all saying, I want to be the player that gets the halfback spot at the Bulldogs. I think Toby has played enough games now where he could start to really make his mark as a halfback. And from what I've seen of him, I was impressed with his defensive ability once they brought him in after 10 rounds, which is all I was worried about. I was impressed with how he came in back into the side and how we made the finals, obviously. They talk about the club didn't manage, like they said that Toby didn't take control, and they would say the same for Burton in that semi-final when it was on the line. But, who beat us? Travojevic and DCE, basically, with one move, destroyed us. They throw a forward pass. Anyway, it still fucking haunts me. I still watch that game hoping the result's going to change. That's it, bro. We don't always have to like what they do. And what I like about our club is that a lot of time, I've heard so much stuff from fans Like yours is fair, mate. There's some stuff that's come out of some fans' mouths, and then when just seeing those, you know, seeing them people just having to shut their fucking mouth for a few weeks, you know what I mean? Just constantly just putting shit on the club, shit on the players, shit on the management, shit on everything. You know, they wait for every loss to go out there and start attacking people and attacking other fans and stuff. And it's like, so I can't believe the egos of people. They want to feel good when we lose. And how do they do that? By trying to make out that they know better. Or trying to make out that you know, they're like, I told you so. These idiots who sat there and wrote the club off after 2 weeks, sacked Serraldo. You know, when we're making the finals, they're down there trying to get Serraldo's signature. You know what I mean? It's like, fuck off, mate. Shut up. Just for 5 minutes. Ben's 35. That's it, bro. He is 35, and as I said last week, is he club first mentality? Well, we'll see. If he comes to the Bulldogs and leads by example on the field and learns from whatever happened at the Dragons, but if he comes to the club and he's not a team player and not a club person, well, it won't work out. But we'll see. We don't know. That's all speculation, you know what I mean? But from me, perception is reality, you know. Your manager thinks something of you. You go to work, and if your manager doesn't think you're doing a good job, you're not doing a good job, even if you are. Even if everything says you are. Perception's reality. So you got to change that perception. To me, Ben Hunt's perception is that he's not a club first player. It's not right, Mick. I'll support the club in the direction the club is heading in. That's it, Timmy. Look, I'm on the record of saying I would have Mick Potter extended. And I felt, you know, you could bring Shane Flanagan as an assistant coach. Never want him to be a full-time coach again. But as an assistant, fair enough. And I thought Jim Dimmick, you know, all these people. Serraldo was at the bottom of my list. But hopefully, you know, egg all over my face. And I'm happy for the egg to be on my face. And I'll say, this is just what I wanted at the time. But that's just my thoughts. A lot of people agreed. But I wasn't rubbishing the club. But as soon as they made the decision to get Serraldo, I wasn't like, oh, fuck. We've got Serraldo. We're going to lose. Oh, you've heard it here first. We're all going to suffer and lose because of Serraldo and Gus Gould. See, that's what these people act like. That's what they do. And then they wait for every loss or every couple of bad things, and they come out and they start flapping their trap. Whereas I go, okay, we've signed Serraldo. All right, what's the good things about him? What's he doing good? Okay, what appears to be wrong? You know, there was games where he didn't play. You know, I remember against West at Belmore, he kept Ockenbaugh on the bench for the whole game, didn't use him, and our players were dying in 40-degree heat. And I'm like, you need to, and they played one or two other. I think 14 or 15 players in that match played the majority, and one of them was hardly used at all, and the other one wasn't used at all. And I'm like, what are you doing, Serraldo? I think there's method in his madness. And I go back and look at it, and I go, oh, he's testing these boys. He's here for the long haul. He's here for the improvement of players and the team and the culture over a period of time. It's not about every game having to be a W. Obviously, that's what you want, and you're trying everything you can to get that W. But I think there's also parts in it where he goes, I'm willing to sacrifice, you know, egg on his own face in order to test someone and push them past their limits. And I think we've seen that. We've seen that in games. I thought the rotations were a lot better last year, though, and it's easy to say that in hindsight. But I said it quite a few times. The rotations were much better, and I felt in that in the semi-final, he got the rotations right for the most part. I just felt that Moran could have come on a bit earlier, and when he did come on, he sort of had a good run. Then he had that drop ball. But that's all hindsight, isn't it? Timmy's 100% behind the club. Dean Pay should be throwing a lifeline. Yeah, I like Dean Pay, Timmy. I don't know if I said this on here before, but a bloke who I'm not good friends with anymore. But but I think he's a truth teller though in saying that. He when Dean Pay went to the Eels, he went up to him and says, "Oh, how could you have gone to the Eels? What about the Bulldogs?" And he said that Dean Pay is he said 2 words to him, and his response was, "Fuck Canterbury." And that was going back quite I think 1998, 99, something like that. Maybe 2000. Because obviously he was in that parasite that we beat when we were down 16-2, I think. So starting to waffle on now. But I like Dean Pay. I liked him as a player. I love watching him. I loved how he defended. He's quite skillful as well. Good offload. Good off both feet. No bullshit type of bloke. Love Jim Dimmick, another one. And part of me at the time would have felt that it would have been a really good pairing if they give Dimmick the fucking coaching role and said, "Dean, come in and be the assistant." Because I think we got a lot more out of those players we had that have been the case. But that's just my opinion. Anyway, Dean had a few assistant jobs as well, so I think he was assistant at the Storm, maybe. But there you go. We've got our top 30. It says no club can win every single game. When we lose, I say better team won and on to the next game. That's it, brother. Good sport. I'm usually fucking cursing and carrying on like an idiot. We've been robbed. But then I gather myself and move on. Sometimes I move on. Sometimes I remember it and bring it up 100 times or 1,000 times. Doesn't matter. But thanks everyone for joining tonight and saying hello. We've been going for about 70 minutes. In summary, the draw is looking good for us. Yeah, me too, brother. Me too. We've got a good draw for next year. Still got some tough games. But when we play Penrith, I think they come off a 5-day turnaround and the Broncos come off a 5-day turnaround into a Thursday night match against us. So that could be a good thing for us. Hopefully. But look, if they can hit the ground running, that draw gives them the opportunity. If they can play good football, improve, you got a bunch of kids there that had no games together that have now had, 15 to 20 games combined together. That will do our team a world of good. And I'd hate to think if they can keep the nucleus to that side and that they can improve and leverage from what they did last year with the aid of this draw, we could be looking at a top 4 spot. We could be, it's so bloody hard. You go through every top 30 and they look solid. They look good. You can make a case for nearly every team in the competition. And so many fans just sit there and write teams off and go, "Oh, they're hopeless. They're shit. Oh, they're a nightmare, blah, blah, blah." This competition always throws up surprises. There's always a team which makes huge ground on the previous year, and be interesting to see whether some of those sides that have sort of fallen out of the 8, whether they bounce back like the Broncos, like the Eels, the Rabbits. Do they make it back? The Warriors. or are they going to stay out of the 8 for a few years? Is it going to be a long pathway back? We don't know. But anyway, guys, I'm going to head off. Thanks for coming on and saying hello. It's been good. Hopefully we'll have some good stuff to talk about next week. But it's a long pre-season, as we know. Can't wait for the first trials. Can't wait till we start to see who's going to be that best 17 that runs out. And we will do another competition this year. And, yeah, that's it. So thanks for joining, everyone. I'm going to go now. It's good having a chat to you all, and go the Dogs.